Oh, baby, baby, baby. Welcome, 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 everybody, to our live debate stream. And friends, we are getting started hot. We have a big, great show for you guys. 1 hour until the debate begins. Kamala Harris making her presidential debate debut against the man who has done it more times than anyone in history. That is Donald John Trump making his 6th appearance. So I guess his 7th. This will be his 7th. 3 against Hillary Clinton, 2 against Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. in 2021 that ended Joe Biden's career in the long, hot summer. And now, to break the record, it is a 7th appearance for Big Chungus. I look rested and ready. Well, I'm ready. I don't know how rested I am. And we've got a surprise for you, for everybody who is here immediately, everybody who showed up early, everybody who was here at the beginning, because, ladies and gentlemen, making her debut on the stream, it's Baby Bella Young. Look at that. Look at that. Baby Bella Young here on the stream. Let's get the mic on.
Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, do you have anything to say, Bella? Bella, this is the family business, so you got to make sure that you we're probably screwing up doing her face reveal so early.
I know.
Well,
it's really far away.
Exactly.
So you can't see it. Her face is so small.
She is very small, and her face is changing. So maybe by the time that she does her face reveal, it'll be significantly different.
Yeah, a little less chonky.
I don't know.
More
She's
chunky?
She's eating a lot. She's got a lot of food. So what do you have to say for yourself?
For me?
Yeah,
I made this.
you did.
I did.
You worked on it for a while.
I did.
Practice
Many
makes
months.
perfect.
Yeah.
You know.
I felt like the soft launch back, in April or May, whenever it was like pretty good.
Yep.
And now we've
shipped.
We've shipped the product.
Yeah.
And the product has shipped a lot.
Yes. The product does shit constantly.
Yeah.
It's a lot of shit from little baby Bella.
Yeah.
We have some songs.
Oh my goodness.
We have the little baby Bella and a baseball bat song.
Yeah. Where we just do our own lyrics over other.
Well, yeah, we like to do songs all the time for each other, but now of course with the baby Bella here. But yeah, it's just to the tune of Peanut Butter Jelly. So it's little baby Bella time. Little baby Bella, little baby Bella, little baby Bella with a baseball bat. Little baby Bella, little baby Bella, little baby Bella with a baseball bat. Little baby Bella, little baby Bella, little baby Bella, little baby Bella. And it just repeats over and over and over again.
I don't know why the baseball bat, why you kept that in, but
Well, I mean, I don't know. Do you have any suggestions?
I don't know. Maybe chat does.
Yeah. I just think little
Something
baby Bella
less-
with a baseball bat is pretty good.
Something less violent than a baseball bat, maybe.
But the original one is Peanut Butter Jelly. That's not exactly threatening. It's Peanut Butter Jelly with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
This is baby's first debate. This baby had she was not alive to see Joe Biden's career end.
No.
As far as she knows, Joe Biden is just an ancient relic of history that was effectively written off the political stage before she was even born. But will her first president that she sees elected be Donald John Trump or Kamala Harris? What is Kamala Harris's middle name? I like middle names. I don't know if any of you guys have noticed that with my fucking popular nomenclature. What is Kamala Harris's middle name? What is Kamala Harris's middle name? What is Kamala Harris's middle name, man? Jesus.
Kamala Harris' middle name is Devi.
For real?
Yes, for real. Kamala Devi Harris is her full name. Devi is a Sanskrit word meaning goddess.
Oh, Devi.
Not Debbie.
Not Debbie.
That would have been.
Kamala Debbie Harris, I think I might vote for. Kamala Devi Harris. Kamala Devi. Is that one where, I don't know. Is that going to be, I mean, it's not Hussein. If Barack Obama, that's how good Barack Obama was. Barack Obama got elected president with his middle name being Hussein.
Yeah.
That's like epic. That's talent. Does Kamala Harris have Devi level talent? We'll find out. We'll find out tonight.
What do you think, Bella? Anything to say? No.
Bella's a little tired. So we got some great news today with the baby Bella, because for those of you who are parents, you will know that in the first 2 weeks, you're pretty much just living to feed the baby. You are on a very rigid 2 to 4 hour schedule, depending on where you are in the process and how they're responding, that you just wake up this baby, like slap them,
You don't
get them up.
slap them, though.
Metaphorically, you go like, and then you feed them. By the boob, by the bottle, by formula, whatever it is, right? You just got to get food into them because they need to grow. This is like a very crucial period. And so we got the word today from our pediatrician. We now no longer have to wake her up, which is awesome, because it means that we can theoretically sleep for longer than functionally. I don't think we ever got more than 2.5 hours of sleep overnight, right?
No, not in one stretch.
And now we might have a shot at getting more than 2.5 hours.
And we're supposed to start tummy time now, too.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we can tummy time her right before bed.
So she gets all tuckered out. Well, right now she just ate and she's like being very
She's
lazy.
tired. Yeah.
But I don't know, are we supposed to put her down or just keep her up?
Yeah, we just feed her until she's satisfied.
Yeah.
None of this fucking force feeding we've been doing for every 2 to 4 hours.
Yeah, holy crap.
That was a lot.
A lot. So we'll see. We do have a great show for you guys tonight, as I will be solo dolo on the live stream for the debate itself. And then we will be joined by National Journal's Hotline editor, Kirk Beto, to break down what we've seen. So this will be a proper PX3 post-game analysis. I will be doing the game, and then we will be doing a post-game. And then at 11 o'clock Central Time, please, all of our fans in the Arab world, tune to Sky News Arabia, because your boy will be on there spitting hot fire to the Arab world. Assalamu alaikum.
I think she's getting hungry again.
No Heaton or Jen, boo. Jen doesn't like this shit. Let's make that clear. Are you moving on?
In a minute.
Okay. Jen doesn't like this shit. Heaton barely likes it, but he's in Edinburgh. The old boy flew the coop. So, I'm going to be solo dolo. That's what it is. Just be better than Brady. Don't worry. I'll be way better than Brady. I saw an ad. They had like a minute-long ad promoting that Tom Brady was a football announcer. And then I was watching the game and I didn't even recognize that he was there. He is like the opposite of Tony Romo. Tony Romo's really good. Tom Brady, very bad. I look like I will fit right in on Sky News Arabia. Yeah, I mean, look, again, Arab-friendly mustache. I think that's why I keep getting booked, because they look at me and they're like, oh, you are, we don't know which of the Arab world I am. Although, like, I have always said the thing about my ethnicity, my ethnic ambiguity is that everybody thinks I'm something, but nobody thinks I'm their thing. Although Hispanic people tend to think that I might be Hispanic. I have been spoken Spanish to on a number of occasions.
You gotta learn Spanish.
Maybe. I mean, just kidding. I'm currently learning Spanish.
Liar.
How you know?
Because I do. I'm your wife. I've been waking up every 2 hours just like you.
We are just getting this in from Shahil Kapoor of NBC News. Harris's campaign that two of the official guests that they are bringing to the debate itself, Anthony Scaramucci and Olivia Troy, two former Trump admin officials that are opposing his reelection. Shades of Trump bringing Bill Clinton's accusers to the second debate in St. Louis. Not quite the punch. I mean, Anthony Scaramucci was a punchline in and of himself, because he got drunk and talked shit to who was it? The guy who's running Playbook. He's a nice guy. He's always nice to me on the trail. The dude, Ryan Lizza, pulled that one. Shout out to Ryan Lizza for that scoop.
Okay, I'm gonna take her down before she gets too hungry.
All right. Let me get a kiss.
Here she is.
Little baby. Bella. Ciao, Bella. Ciao, Bella. Oh, look at that.
Sleepy. This is definitely oversized for her.
Yeah. She's going to have to grow. She was born very small.
Yeah. No kiss for chat. Only kiss for the baby.
All right. Night, night, Bella. What is the drinking game for tonight? Well, last time we did a bingo card. We could maybe do a bingo card again. Card maker. All right. By the way, the Democrats did it again. The one thing the Democrats love doing more than anything on a debate day is releasing a list with a number of experts. In 2020, they released a list on the day of the first debate saying that number of experts believed that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. Before the debate in June, there was a number of experts that said that economists believe that Biden's economy would be better than Trump's economy. And today, we've got a number of experts on the military. So let's see. Let's see if we can find this. Generals, military, Trump. Here we go. 10 former top military officials. All right, so I'm putting 10 former top military officials here. What else we got? What else do we have here in the chat? Project 2025. Let's put that in one of the corners. Do we think she'll go with I'm Speaking? I think she might. There we go. Abby Gate. Yeah. January 6th. Let's throw DEI in there. Haitians. Let's throw the Haitians in there. If Haitians didn't have enough shit on their plate, oh my God. Dick Cheney. Yeah. Dick Cheney. You want to go 9/11? We can do 9/11. Felon. Yeah, let's throw felon down here. Well, we have Haitians. I don't want to put Haitians and cats, but I feel like cats would be a better way. So let's throw cats. We're going to take Haitians off. Abortion. Let's put abortion there. Borders-Czar. Yeah, Borders-Czar goes in the corner here. No, why am I doing that? That's stupid. Ooh, black jobs. Yeah. IVF. IVF's a good one because you don't know who's going to say it. We have I'm Speaking on here. Are we going to try to call the merch the choreographed line that's already on a t-shirt? Hamas. That's a good one. That's a good one. All right. Let's troll Hamas on here. Let's troll Hamas. Ooh, no tax on tips. That's a goodie. That's a goodie. No tax on tips. Did we throw weird? No. All right, we got weird. Ukraine. Tariff. Skibbity? I don't think anyone's saying skibbity. Inflation. Ooh, do we get a couch joke? Does Kamala make a joke about JD Vance banging the couch? Groceries? All right, let's go groceries. We have Abby Gate. Oh, is that with it? Oh, with an E. There we go. Abby Gate. Saying nobody calls it the Inflation Reduction Act anymore. They call it the biggest environmental bill in a generation. Fracking. Yeah, let's get fracking on here. Isn't groceries inflation? Yeah, but look, we're trying to fill the board here. If we have more than enough, then I'll take that down. Crypto. Let's throw guns on here. And then anything else, and I'll replace groceries. Ooh, migrant crime. Let's do migrant crime. All right. So we have cats, 9/11, black job, guns, Project 2025, tariff, former top military officials. Weird, DEI, crypto, Jan 6, Ukraine, free space, abortion, Hamas, migrant crime, I'm speaking, Dick Cheney, no tax on tips, inflation, felon, IVF, fracking, Abby Gate, and border czar. Fucking print it. Print it, baby. Generate. Boom. Throwing this one on X. Bingo card for tonight. Yeah, the O column is a pretty good favorite. Project 2025, inflation, Dick Cheney, Hamas, IVF. Guns, 9/11, borders are. I'm speaking IVF. That's pretty good, though, too. Tariff, Like, really, you're only hoping former top 10 military officials shows up for B. All right, and here we go. Let's throw this in the Discord. Here's the link. I threw that in the Discord, and I'll throw it on X as well. Make your own. Okay. Why would either of them bring up cats? Well, that's kind of a double entendre because you have J.D. Vance, of course, having an old clip of him and Tucker Carlson talking about childless cat ladies. So there's a cat. And then you have what has happened over the last 72 hours, and that is, you know, I haven't said shit about this story, number one, because I haven't been live streaming, but also I have not had any desire to say anything on social media because any of these stories, especially this time of year, I just want to wait 72 hours because I'm not sure that anything's real, but I'm also not sure that anything's not real. So for the uninitiated, here's what's not in dispute. The city of Springfield, Ohio has had tens of thousands of Haitian migrants come to their town. I think it's like half the population of the town that has come to settle there. And there are complaints with the locals. What we don't know is the rumor that has gone around saying that the Haitian migrants are stealing cats and eating them, and ducks from the park and eating them. I had no idea whether or not the Aurora Tren de Aragua story was real. That turned out to be real. So I am putting a pause on it. The only reason why I have any reason to connect to any of this is just I grew up in South Florida. There are a lot of Haitians there. One of the things that I remember the most from going to public school with a lot of different stripes, Black kids, Haitian kids, Venezuelan kids, Cuban kids, Puerto Rican kids, all stripes, right? It's a big melting pot down there. Is that the Haitian kids would get teased for eating cats. For whatever reason, and I have no idea the propensity of the Haitian people to eat a cat, but it is certainly a thing that I have heard said about the Haitian people for nearly my entire life. So I have no clue if it's true. I have zero clue if it's true, but that has been talked about. The cats. And that's why cats is on the board. Dimitri from YouTube. Unfortunately, the old boy is in Edinburgh, so he will not be with us tonight. Look, y'all can get bullish on whether or not it's true or false. I'm just not. I'm going to stay out of it. Because initially I saw that video of like the Venezuelan gang fucking taking over the apartment buildings in a suburb of Denver. And I was like, okay, it's libs of TikTok, whatever. They found some super weird footage and now they're going to invent a story around it. Turns out it's true. Turns out that Tren de Aragua, I'm going to get that one right. Tren de Aragua, because it's the new MS-13. They just took over these apartment buildings. Like that shit is for real. Zombie Doc, I have spent months of time in Haiti doing relief work. Yes, they may eat cats and dogs, but we're talking out of desperation. It's not a delicacy. If that's happening in Ohio, what does that, I assume, say? It would say that they are probably poor and don't have money if it's happening, right? I assume it would happen for the exact same reasons. Look, Haiti is a pitiable place. Haiti has been fucked up for a long time. And, you know, the Clintons get a lot of shit. I don't know if there is anything that the Clintons should get more shit for than what they did to Haiti. Just Google that one. It's dark, 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 dark stuff. So, Mark Brentley, yeah, the PolitiFact initially was that there was no Venezuelan gangs, but there's since been reporting on what is that, September 9th? There has since been like Perkins Coie, which is a liberal law firm, did a report saying, or from the point of view of the owners of those apartment buildings, and said that it did happen. So I don't know. From what I have seen, it looks like it is. Well, let me put it this way, because we're going to get into a semantics thing of what does it mean to take over a building? What does it mean to, like, you know, are they running? Are they in the office? Are they getting tickets to fix people's air conditionings? Are they ripping women out of their apartment buildings and forcing them into sex slavery? I don't know. I have no idea. I know enough to know that I believe the videos of them walking around the hallways with AKs. That's what I think is fair enough. Notably trustworthy source, the landlords. Well, I mean, again, we're going to get into this in this semantics thing where directionally, is there a problem with a Venezuelan gang in these apartment complexes? I guess that's where I'll draw the line. I will draw the line at saying, yes, it does look like there's a problem there. Where the apartments are. The lawyer for the owner who wants the Venezuelans gone shouldn't be trusted. Well, the people or the Venezuelan gangs? Well, again, guys, look, are we going to get into the semantics? Is that they haven't taken over an apartment? I mean, So we're not saying that there's not gang members that live in this community. Oh, geez, come on. The city of Aurora confirmed in an ex post that there's a small trendy Aragua presence in Aurora, and they've been taking it seriously. There have been a lot of misleading information shared about what is happening in our city. Aurora is a safe community. The media have conflated it considerably, exaggerated incidents that are isolated as a handful of properties. I don't think that any of this is like something can be in existence without being an absolute directional hit to somebody's belief system. We can say, wow, it's fucked up. A Venezuelan gang has gained a foothold in a Denver suburb. How did that happen? You can say that without saying that everything is fucking burning, at least in my opinion. What it's clearly not is the gang runs the buildings. Okay, if we're going to draw the line at runs the buildings, then sure. Like I don't know. If I said that, then I apologize. I don't know about running the buildings. I don't know what running, because running assumes that it's like a hostile takeover, that it's territorial. Is there an influx of Venezuelan gang members in a place where they didn't normally exist? That's where I would draw the line. Watch secular talk on YouTube. No. How about I don't? How about I don't watch secular talk on YouTube? How about I don't? I'm not going to watch shit. I'm not going to watch nothing. I'm going to watch exactly what I want to watch. Exactly what I want to watch, which is mostly my own edits. I don't watch a lot. I got to put shit out. I don't have a lot of time, man. I don't have a lot of time. I watch Jar Jar. That's all I do. Shit. Let's get everything set up here. Let's go to C-SPAN.
Republican. Kevin, our cameras are from supporters of these candidates. Some already talking to the media ahead of tonight's debate. There'll be more in the so-called spin room after the debate. Kevin, what do you want to hear tonight?
I'd like to hear some honesty, some civility. And
all right, guys, I am going to take a bio break. And then I am going to come back up here and we're going to lock the fuck down. We're going to lock the fuck down and we are going to barrel through this 90 minutes that could change the fate of democracy.
How are you?
Doing well. What do you want to hear tonight during this debate?
Well, I don't think that we should have the standard where Kamala has to be perfect. And it's primetime TV. I'm just excited to see her take down Trump and have it be just a really great prosecution of all that he hasn't achieved in his life.
You call it primetime TV. What do you mean?
I mean, I'm waiting for the next season of House of the Dragon, and this is the next best thing.
Okay. Well, take a look at New York Times headline by their media reporter today, predicting the debate ratings. Super Bowl? Nah. Seinfeld finale? Maybe. And this is what he writes about tonight's debate. The record for a presidential debate is 84 million viewers for the first meeting in 2016 between Hillary Clinton and Mr. Trump. So Tuesday's bout between Ms. Harris and Mr. Trump, which will be simulcast on nearly every major network, could theoretically draw an audience akin to that of the final episodes of Seinfeld, 76.3 million, and Cheers, which was 80 million. Mr. Trump's presence alone suggests a large audience will tune in. He has participated in 3 of the 4 most watched general election debates since 1976. The Hollywood Reporter, with the ratings numbers for the June debate of this election cycle, when it was the former president against President Joe Biden, the ratings of that debate drew 51 million viewers, way below the 2020 numbers, which saw closer to around 73 million in 2020. So a big audience expected for tonight's ABC debate, and we will be simulcasting here on the C-SPAN networks. Glenn in Union, Kentucky, Republican. Glenn.
Hello.
Hi, Glenn.
I wanted to call because I am in support of Trump, and I am been in support of Trump since the very first time he ran in 2016. And the reason why we originally supported him, we can't forget that. He was the outsider. He was not a politician. He was brought to the country as a president because he was there to change things. He was brought to the country to drain the swamp and to get rid of corruption and to make America great again. And I don't see what Democrats are so angry about making great again, make America great again. You know, they're so against it for some reason. I don't get that.
All right. Glenn there in Union, Kentucky. C-SPAN caught up with people on the streets about tonight's debate and what they wanted to hear from the candidates. Take a look at some of the answers we got.
Discover the heartbeat of democracy with C-SPAN Voices 2024 as we engage voters ahead of the first debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, asking, what issue would you like for them to address and why?
Hello, my name is Bregan Flannery. I'm from Sampson, Alabama. My biggest issue this election,
All right, baby.
I feel like we don't have adequate coverage of both parties, and you know, we just have a very leftist media.
Oh, my top issue is women's rights, reproductive rights.
So the question then
I
is,
have 2 daughters and 2 sons, and the most important thing for me is to make sure that my daughters are safe.
I think last time I switched so I would be,
in not just equal rights, but
no, I think that's what we want, right? We want full screen
preservation of democracy
debate.
And it seems like our freedoms are being eroded. We're here in the National Mall in World War II.
And then me in the little corner, right? Because we're not worried about this getting struck down.
Focus on.
When I think about who I'm voting for, really will center around.
No one, C-SPAN's not striking me down. All right. All right. C-SPAN's not striking me down. I'm in with fucking C-SPAN. All right.
I would say my top issue for the U.S. right now would probably be immigration and illegals.
I should get C-SPAN to start running PX3 ads. Well, they don't run ads, so. No, I'm clicked up. I'm mobbed up with C-SPAN, man. They thanked me, Jen, and Heaton in their newsletter because we helped raise money for them. They had a big summer drive, and they raised, I think, close to $80,000.
And back to your calls here as we await the first the presidential debate. It's the second of this election cycle. It's the first between Vice President Harris and the former President Trump, and that is going to get underway in less than 15 minutes. ABC is the host of that. We are simulcasting it here on C-SPAN, and we want to know.
Yes, C-SPAN is aware that we support the show. We hung out with them during the. We hung out with them during both of the conventions. But they were extraordinarily nice. Extraordinarily nice.
For ruining people's lives and all types of things, losing their homes, losing their jobs, sitting in jail.
I always knew that you were bought by big C-SPAN. No, I mean, look, they're just, I don't know, I dig them. They're, I don't know, like, who else is nonpartisan but C-SPAN?
like Mr. Trump to
C-STAN.
tell us how much of
Dude.
his
I gotta hit him up for ideas for merch, but C-STAN is fucking great.
Donald Trump's administration, and Donald Trump should stop taking credit for all the things that Mike Pence did. And the last thing I'd like to hear is Vice
Hello, Claire. You missed the baby. The baby was on early.
done a lot during this administration, during these almost 4 years. We didn't get everything right, but we did the things that we didn't get right.
My 400 shares of yes on Kalshi are about to cash out at 0. Yeah. Look, that was an aggressive bet. It was an aggressive bet.
All right, Chris in Brunswick, Georgia, Republican. Hey, Chris, just hang with us for a minute. Let's go into the spin room. California Governor Gavin Newsom is talking to reporters.
When am I going to have a regular show on it? A regular show on what, Meryl?
Breaks my heart. What happened on October 7th? Want these hostages home. We want this war to end. So does Kamala Harris.
The baby is currently, I think she's eating now. But she was up on the stream. She'll be back at some point. Gavin Newsom here in the spin room.
I'm not going to get into the nuances.
Okay, then I'll ask you a different question. What would you like to see from the new president on day one regarding the border?
Well, I think we have a proposal, $650 million for a border wall, 1,500 new border agents, 4,300 new asylum agents, 100 new judges. Sick, but literally, detailed plan that was put out, a bipartisan plan that President Biden endorsed, as well as.
All right, Gavin, spinning. I mean, it is the spin room, right? They don't call it the objective facts room. They call it the spin room. When will I ever have a show on C-SPAN? Probably never. I think C-SPAN needs to be exactly what it is. I don't want to touch it. It is a beautiful orchid that just deserves to be supported. It's a resource. It's like a great American natural resource. It's like a river. It's like a national park. It's just something that we should just preserve through our own goodwill. It doesn't need anybody's. It doesn't need government money. It just needs our tender, loving care. If we all keep it together, we can all pledge to be better and more informed in politics. That's what C-SPAN's all about. I don't know why I'm shilling for C-SPAN. I love them. They're just great. The other thing is that not only are they just a really, really heartwarming product, they're all just the nicest fucking people on the planet. It's just, whatever. Anyway, ooey gooey gushy. Me. Kiss, 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 kiss. I love C-SPAN. Whatever. Moving on. I donated to C-SPAN because of us. Yeah, good. Okay, predictions. Okay, I have weird predictions. These are out there. I don't even think these are going to happen, right? I just had a vision. I had one vision earlier today. So something that has not gotten a lot of press, has kind of been forgotten, is that during the Afghanistan withdrawal, and let me make sure that I get these names right. During the Afghanistan withdrawal, if you remember, there was a reprisal. We drone bombed what we believed was a cell of ISIS-K, which is an Islamic jihadist group that is more extreme than the Taliban. They didn't like the fact that the Taliban was helping America leave, and so they suicide bombed at Abbey Gate. What we found out was that the people that we drone bombed were not ISIS-K. It was a family of 10 civilians. So the vision that I had was that Donald Trump at some point would say, you were out of your depth, Kamala. You were out of your depth. You're out of your depth. You panicked, and it was a shame. It was an absolute shame because you drone bombed a family. You drone bombed them and they're stone cold dead. And that's why I would like to say their names. Zamari Ahmadi. Nasser Ahmadi. Zamari Ahmadi. Faisal Ahmadi. These were beautiful people, and now they're dead because of you, Kamala. Fazad Ahmadi. That was just the vision I had in my head. The vision that I had in my head was Donald Trump, because Donald Trump every once in a while loves to say Arab names, and he always says it in like Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. He just has a weird way to say it. So that was my vision. My vision is that he would say the names of the people that were drone bombed during Afghanistan to demonstrate how incompetent the Biden administration was. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. That was the dude. He said that was the ISIS leader that they killed, and he was like, Shane Gillis has like a hilarious thing on this in his stand-up, but it's funny to just watch it. But he was like we didn't go through the door. We went through the wall. A robot came in through the wall and a dog, and he killed, this man died crying. Harris will have a smaller podium than Chungus. Yes, that is true. Because this is the greatest height differential that we've ever seen between two candidates. I did post the bingo card on X, Justin R. Young, and on the Discord. I did my whole debate prep episode on PX3. My book on Kamala is she's great at set pieces. The stuff that she has drilled into her head, she can deliver very effectively. She's better when she speaks shorter. The more she talks, the more she is prone to do a few things. She has bad body language habits. She looks down a lot. I think she takes copious notes and then tries to check on them, which makes her look not maintain eye contact. And she repeats words, and it makes her seem out of her depth. The more she's succinct, the better off she is. She's not going to have the ability to go back and forth with Donald Trump. And that, I think, is kind of at her benefit because her weakness is improv. The more she speaks extemporaneously, the more she has a habit of either freezing or saying something stupid, or, and this is when you know she's out of her depth, she says the word okay to pause, okay? So she can think, okay? And say the next word, okay? And then the absolute worst thing that she does is she will laugh nervously when she knows she has said something stupid. It's a bad tick. We'll see whether or not it rears its head today. Trump is Trump. Again, he breaks the record tonight. He will do his 7th presidential debate. That's more than anyone has ever done on television ever in the history of the United States of America. He's a bull in a china shop. He is at his worst when he is too aggressive, and he is running over people so hard he looks like a bully and a dickhead. He is at his best when he is stating his piece and allowing the opponent to try and bait him into things. Among the failures of Joe Biden in the June debate was that he was actively trying to get Trump to be pissed, and it just came off as weird. I mean, his brain was melting, so that was the least of his worries. But when he did his like, you're the sucker, you're the loser, it's just you're not going to out aggressive Trump, so you have to take the high road on him. As of now, Wobbles, they are only doing one debate. As of right now. Honestly, I think Trump has had more television time than any politician. I don't think that that's even arguable. That was true before he did his first debate. I mean, the man was on fucking primetime television for 10 years. How long did The Apprentice run?
So, Tony, could the vice president convince you to vote for her? And if so, how?
She could, if she shares.
He's got more TV time, but it was shitty TV. I mean, I don't know. It's very popular. The Apprentice was extraordinarily popular. I know it's hard to go back and understand the pre-political Donald Trump, but he was incredibly popular. Really, really popular. I wonder how much Reagan was on TV in comparison. Well, remember, Reagan was a screen actor, and it was early Hollywood. You know, the television didn't exist in the same way like it did when Trump was there. What Cigar said, I spark up when I watch this. If you're like me, you go with a darker cigar. I'm a Maduro man. If you know, if you've ever been around me in my habitat, if I'm not smoking what I get from the illustrious, the general down in the Dominican, my private roller, then it is La Gloria Cubanas. Those are my favorite. They're rolled down in Little Havana.
Tony, I want to show you and others that it's not just this New York Times poll, Washington Post poll, and this tweeted out by the Washington Post reporter showing that
He seemed low energy when him and Elon did the live talk. I don't think that that Donald Trump being low energy is bad for him. Like, I've always said that Crump is the secret weapon. Calm Trump. If Donald Trump comes out and calls her Madam Vice President and then just sticks to the fucking facts, I think he would destroy her. If Donald Trump said, Madam Vice President, I happen to disagree. I think that your record's just been absolutely appalling. And I'd like to go through the following points. Point the first.
Okay, what do you want to hear from the candidates tonight?
Yeah, I would like to hear our ex-president.
It will not happen. The great and powerful Andrew Zarian texted me earlier and said, what are the chances that Donald Trump comes out really normal and really even-headed? And I said 0. Are we? Oh, we're going. We're going.
Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
This is an ABC News special, the most consequential moment of this campaign. Kamala Harris.
Together, we will chart a new way forward.
Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Face to face, historic. The ABC News presidential debate.
Let's go!
David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Let's go!
Good evening, I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no...
A reminder that these are the rules that Joe Biden negotiated.
Setting for 2 candidates who have never.
You can make the argument that he did it to dare Trump to take it.
Closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Coming out at the same time.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Kamala being aggressive with the handshake.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the
Avoiding
ambition,
the question initially.
aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing.
Yeah.
And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people.
Uh-oh.
We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of
A
America.
lot of policy here.
My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year.
Big liability.
Because of
Trump
his
can say that she
policies
didn't
and
answer
his
the question.
ideas about what should be
No reaction
the
from Trump.
backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation.
You should pivot to the question.
We've had a terrible economy because inflation, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails,
Moving
from
from
mental
the economy
institutions
to
and insane
the
asylums.
border.
And they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado.
We have
They are
those two
taking
cities
over
that
the
we talked
towns.
to.
They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president
got Project
intends on
2025.
implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America.
She's back to repeating
What Goldman
things.
Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually
got a dry
explode the
mouth.
deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You
Run,
responded.
spot,
and let's
run.
drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period
Nowhere
of time.
close, but
people can't go out and buy
it was high.
cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China
hawk
should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having, on the short end of the stick, in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. "Thank you, President Xi," exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion.
Both of them are
President
staying
Trump
on
often
schedule,
touted
for the
that you were
record.
able to kill Roe v. Wade last year. You said that
All
you
right.
were proud to be the
Economy
most
was Trump
pro-life
on
president in
offense. This is
American
Trump
history.
on defense.
Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, "I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks." But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before. He said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says
Kamala
execution after birth,
trying to talk over him.
execution, no longer abortion because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Oh, a
That
fact
is
check,
what
a fact check.
response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear
But Trump didn't. But Trump didn't fight back. Interesting.
Fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy.
Very
to
emotional
term?
play. Very emotional
They don't
play.
want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, 2 things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss
Gotta take the
it
legs out of
because
JD.
She'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government, and we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working
Denied
people,
IVF.
working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question. Would you veto?
Oh,
do
mics are hot.
abortions
Mics
in
are hot.
The 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board.
By the way,
in this
Trump
country.
not asking her
Vice President
specifically,
Harris, you were
going
tasked by
through the
President
moderators.
Biden with getting to the
Trump
root
is playing
causes
by the
of
rules. He does
migration
not
from
normally
Central
do that.
America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration
Kamala
wait
looks
until
a little
6 months
pissed.
before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns.
Wow,
drugs,
right to the
and human
bio.
beings.
Answer the question.
And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
Crowd size.
And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to
She
the
baited him
towns
into
all
it,
over
but
the United States.
this
And
was
lot
a
of
bad
towns don't wanna
question
talk.
for
It's
him.
not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating
cats.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people are
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog
You are
was
television.
eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
The laugh.
You know, this is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain.
Yeah, this was not a good moment for him.
Of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member
Cheney.
Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond
Yeah.
here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says
Did not
overall
answer the
violent
question.
crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
to stop
Harris,
him.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me.
Oh,
they
Jesus.
Talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy
President
with a fake
Trump.
Russia investigation
We do have a lot
that
to get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking, because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes
This is something that Biden
we
never
cannot
mentioned. This is good
over-rely
for
on
them.
Foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother.
Second
who
time she's brought up the
worked
middle
and
class.
saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now.
Oh, I'm
Does that
talking
sound
now.
familiar? She went out. She went out.
I'm talking now. Does that sound familiar?
Criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis. She went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar. But they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that
for
we
the
have to get
environment
to.
that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy.
Offense
and the
for
role of the
Kamala.
president,
Offense for
in a
Kamala.
moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them.
Defense for
the
Trump.
country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate.
This is literally
And
Joe
what
Biden's
did
stump speech.
The president then at the time say there were fine people on each side. Let's remember
She got the quote
that
wrong.
when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that
She's hit
was
this a couple
bridge too
times.
far
That's the most
for you,
effective
well,
thing
there
that she
is
can
a
say.
place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
But
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost
This is a
75
terrible
million
thing
votes,
for
the
him.
most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls. We need and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And said
They
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing.
A lot of
That's the
fact
other
checking
thing.
here by ABC.
They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is
You should
we
have done this
a nation
initially.
in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded
This
saying
is
we
a
won't let Donald
gift,
Trump
a
intimidate
gift
us.
from the
We won't let
moderators.
him suppress the
Huge
vote.
power play.
Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
She's got to hit it out of the park.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just tell you about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president.
He needs to connect this
But
to
when
Ukraine and
weak,
Israel.
Pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes.
Yeah.
What you did, you talk
He's
about
wobbling.
the threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. and now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm
President,
okay with it
Mr.
because
President, your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still
Yeah,
being held
he
Americans
left something on the
among them.
table there. Not
Vice President Harris
like
in
it's
December,
fine to
you
say the
said,
Orban
quote,
thing as
Israel has
long
a
as
right
you
to
plug it
defend
back
itself,
it
but you
in
added, quote,
to
"It
Israel and
matters
Ukraine." He
how."
did not do
Saying
that.
international humanitarian
But we're
law
getting
must
to the
be
issue now.
respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror, and they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why
She really is trying to bait him.
We have
Really
to have
trying
a
to bait him.
president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
And she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
And we are into halftime. Well, I don't know if it's halftime. I think this is only supposed to go until 9:30. I don't know. I thought this was only an hour and a half. There's 2 commercials from now until then. Anyway, all right. My notes. First note, Donald Trump left us. That is, I mean, it's so interesting to see how much of this stuff is almost verbatim from Biden's talking points. She is very much sticking to talking points. I think that she knows that improv is not her strength. She is trying to get the hunks of stuff that's out there. The weakest moments for Kamala have been when she just goes back to the fact that she was from the middle class. It's a lot of bio. She does not answer questions. That's a big liability that I think Donald Trump is leaving on the table. When she is asked a question and she doesn't answer it, say, hey, by the way, she didn't answer the question. I'll answer it for you. Blah, 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 blah. I'm an open book. That's actually, I think, a fairly effective line from Trump. I'm an open book, because there's a fair amount of what the Democrats are saying that he doesn't agree with, right? Like he has said he was not for Project 2025. The Democrat point of view is that he is lying. So he's saying, I'm an open book. It plays into the idea that no matter what you think of Donald Trump, you think you know him. That's just a soundbite they gave her. That's fine. Run, spot, run was a Trump line. I'm going to send her a MAGA hat. He's had a few quotables here. We've had the fact check from ABC. Let me get to the good Kamala stuff. Fired by 81 million was very, very good. Really, the biggest thing about Kamala is that Donald Trump has left a lot on the table. Look, there's a high variance when it comes to Donald Trump. He is good. When he's good, he's very, very good. I'm talking now. Does that sound familiar? Great line. That might be the line of the night so far. And yet, when he gets into his rambles, he doesn't connect what I think is taking advantage of a fairly middling performance by Kamala Harris thus far. She's very animated on the sideline. She's looking exasperated. She's done the kind of like a finger cloud thing, which I don't think necessarily screams presidential. And yet he hasn't taken advantage of it. In a lot of ways, this is like a different version of the Biden debate thus far. You have a Democrat that is now effectively taking advantage of the fact that Donald Trump is a highly divisive candidate and hitting him on the very, very well-known weaknesses that he has. And yet Donald Trump is not able to turn his hips, put his bat on the ball, and launch where I think some of these answers are deficient and devoid. You're going to think that Trump is leaving something on the table when he is not hitting Kamala Harris and Joe Biden on saying, were there any wars when I was the president? No. Are there wars now? Yes. There's a very simple soundbite there that gets lost in the ocean of his rambling. Same thing with the economy. He can look down the barrel of the gun and say, whatever we're saying, let that be what we're saying. Do you believe that the economy is better now than it was 4 years ago? Leave it up to you. Like, that's all he needs to say. He can say everything after that, but it's the same thing with Kamala, where you got to get some kind of answer up front before you get into your filibuster. Kamala's terrible about it, and she's been bad about it tonight. Donald Trump has been a little bit better, but not by much. And I think that he is leaving a lot on the table. So far, I think this is a middling performance by Kamala. I don't believe that she is showing America much of a better version of herself. But at the same time, the greatest chance she has to be elected is that she's not Donald Trump. And so we head back to the Thunderdome.
Former President Trump meet face-to-face for the first time. You're watching C-SPAN's live coverage of the ABC News presidential debate simulcast.
Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy.
This is another bite at the apple for him to say exactly what I just said.
Wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more, because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
They threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that
That's
Donald
a bad
Trump
time to
says
deploy
this
that
war would
line.
be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it
That
up.
might be the merch line.
And
You're running
that's not
against
who
me.
We are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow,
Quiet, please.
much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with
left herself open for
Zelensky
that.
and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When
She's the one who brought it up.
With President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Defense for Kamala.
I'll tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000
aggressive gambit by Kamala.
Taliban terrorists released. And get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics.
I mean, that is a strong position for him. I think he left some on the table there.
She was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career,
Squandered opportunity. That was a great one-liner.
You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States.
Very Hillary Clinton.
And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled.
He does not need to be going back to the actual details of the Central Park 5.
That has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world.
This is strong.
And I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy.
Bad body language by
remember
Kamala.
this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up, Lindsay.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
This is a prepared
One
line.
who believes
New generation of leadership.
in
Is that the
what
Merch
is
line?
possible. One who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development.
I have a plan. It's very Elizabeth Warren.
That is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's turn
Trump,
back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay. Thank you,
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
No,
because
Trump,
the
President
former
Trump.
president has said
No, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry.
I
We're
just
going
need
to
to
move on,
respond.
Vice
Oh,
President.
will they?
President
Will they?
Trump, this is
Multiple
now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act,
Kamala Harris is a gun
look
owner?
at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged.
This is an exact word-for-word Biden
Like
line.
him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, "No, you don't. No, you don't."
She's baiting him to talk about
Get
John
rid of
McCain
the
so they can
Affordable
win
Care Act. You have
Arizona.
no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris,
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a
She
lot
made
of
a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to give. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
It didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine?
This is why Kamala should have saved the you're not running against Biden line. She should have deployed it right here.
Moscow's wife. Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Concepts of a plan.
The ABC News presidential debate.
All right. So we are entering into our final furlough here. Obviously, the prepared line was, you're running against me, you're not running against Joe Biden. I think she deployed it too early. That was the moment to deploy it. She, look, improv is not her thing. Quiet, please. If I'm going to guess the lines that are going to get the most play, it's going to be, I'm talking now. Does that remind you of something? And quiet, please. New generation of leadership. The strongest that Kamala's been in this debate is new versus old, new versus old. But ultimately, the problem that she has with that is that she does need to have some kind of cleavage between her and Biden. There's got to be something that says, I'm not Joe Biden. I'm going to do things differently. This has always been the issue with the Democrats hitting Trump on divisiveness. It's Joe Biden doing a speech about how we need to unite the country because extreme MAGA Republicans are ruining everything and they're going to ruin democracy. And I'm giving this speech in front of a darkened building with a bunch of red behind me so I look like Emperor Palpatine. If you are going to say this man is divisive, you have to take the high road. And you can be clever, you can wink at the negative stuff, but you can't just read the Wikipedia of shit people are angry about Donald Trump with. And Kamala's done that tonight. If there is a very negative critique, it's that we've kind of seen a blending of Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. This is kind of like a cover band that is playing those same hits of the first three debates that he did with Hillary and the next three that he did with Joe Biden. The best thing she can do is what she said here. I'm a new generation of leadership. But you got to back that with something. You have to have something there behind it. Again, the reason why she might win this debate, the reason why she might win this election has nothing to do with her performance. It has everything to do with Donald Trump being a divisive candidate. And I think he was more put together in that segment than he was in the first half, but still not great. I mean, concepts of a plan is something that you can already see trending on Twitter. If we're going to get into the most comical Kamala chameleon is her being a gun owner. When has that been talked about? Kamala Harris, the gun owner? She's strapped? Is she carrying? Like, where did that just came out of nowhere? Randy Orton style. CNN 2019, she's a gun owner. I mean, look, they're saying it once and then there's being known as a gun owner. Like, Kamala Harris would not have said, I'm a gun owner in 2019, right? She's not saying, she's saying it now with her full chest. This is the problem with Kamala Harris. The idea is that she was one person. Now she's another thing. Now, that being said, Donald Trump has not hit her with your flip-flopping. The most effective thing that he hit her on that was, I'm going to send you a MAGA hat because you used to have these ideas. Now you don't. But he's shying away from that in favor of saying she's just a liberal. Anything she's saying right now is not true because her true heart is in grabbing the guns.
National Constitution Center in Philadelphia for our live simulcast of the ABC News presidential debate. A reminder, we'll open the phone lines as the debate ends to get your reaction.
The great Ryan Macbeth here on Twitter. If Kamala Harris is a gun owner, then I'm Kamala Harris.
Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Disinformation, Ryan. I'm hitting you with
David
disinformation
Muir
on that.
And Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
Very much like her DNC
So
speech.
she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years.
effective.
They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
I'll tell you what, tough backgrounds. You had Trump with the blue suit and the blue background. You had both of the hosts with black hair blended into the black background. Donald Trump had the line of the night. He waited until the very end to say it. Why hasn't she done it? Why hasn't she done it? That's it. He eventually got there. Is that going to be something that sticks? Is that going to be something that people have heard? Usually at this stage of the debate, people have kind of tuned out. But, Claire Gack, here's the problem. She's not the president. Then distance yourself from the president. This is the inherent problem with Kamala. This is not to do with her, right? This is literally just when you're trying to operate a mid-race switch of the pilot, when you have to acknowledge to the humans who are going to vote, why did you do it? Because if you're going to say, everything's great, we hate him, everything's great, we switched. Why? Why though? The price is on the can though. And it took him all night to do it. It would have been better if he would have said it earlier. That's the line of the night. That is the discordant line of the night. No question of the cover up of Biden's health. To be totally honest, I would have preferred him to do that if I'm a Republican over him getting into the Central Park 5. Nobody gives a shit about that. That is something that like only people in New York give a fuck about. All right. So hold on. We're gonna be 2 seconds, and then I'm gonna try to bring on Kirk Beto, and we're gonna do the PX3 episode. How about that? Would you guys like to see the PX3 episode? We'll do the PX3 episode. So hold on. For whatever reason, I stopped C-SPAN. We will turn C-SPAN back on. Oh, wait, no. C-SPAN ended their coverage. Man, we crushed that bingo, though, huh? We crushed that bingo. All right. 2 seconds. C-SPAN entered the coverage, so I'm going to use the bathroom. And, well, here, hold on. Let's do the thing we like to do. Let's do the thing we like to do because it's fun. All right. A pop punk anthem about a presidential debate. That's what we're going to do. We're just so I can use the bathroom. I just need to use the bathroom. That's all I need to do. I need like 3 minutes, and we're going to get those 3 minutes in a few seconds. Molecular mass. Trump would have said Kamala is all words, no action if she were competent, and then she wouldn't be running as a centrist. Yeah, we crushed the bingo card. Sean F. No one but people from New York give a fuck about the Central Park 5. Hey, I resemble that comment. Yeah. Yo, what borough, though? What borough? 4 a.m. in Scotland. Yeah, that's why Heaton wasn't on the show. He's in Edinburgh. Yes, we're going to listen to 2 AI songs while I use the bathroom, and they start right now.
Today's stage is lit, but the truths are out of sight. You sing right and lies. Promises you make, but clean up a mess. Once the sparks all die. What's real or just the show? Flash a break, heartache, what they will never know. She's penetrating, fire in the air. Oh yeah, it's burning. What's so flying? Do they even care? Oh no, oh no, oh no. Oh yeah, it's a showtime, yeah. Woo! Lights are drawn and stakes are high. Who's the truth? Who's the lie? Promises under neon skies. Who's gonna rise and say goodbye?
All right, there we go. We are done with that. Let me see. This is going to be the big question because what I want to do is bring on Mishta Kirk-Bedo. It looks like I might be able to. Kirk-Bedo is the hotline editor for National Journal. And we will have ourselves a merry little chat. Okay. When you're ready. There we go. AJ, well, that certainly was a thing. Harris with a pile of completely unattainable ideas and Trump with a pile of bullshit wrapped in crying like a beta bitch. All right. Celebrity FM, in retrospect, she could have been awful, but I'd say we basically had a tie here, maybe edge to Kamala, and then everybody was paying attention to like, oh shit, she's probably going to die. I was of the opinion that Kamala, it was more important for Kamala than Trump in this debate because she's the most unknown. I don't believe she credibly rebutted what Donald Trump wanted to say about her, which is she's radical. And part of it is also because she's so aggressive with Trump. So if you're just going to like brush everything off, then the default is people still don't know about her. That she needed to introduce herself, and that's why she was so bio heavy. But again, man, you gotta do some answers up front. Caleb on Twitter, she did much better than I thought, but came off super manufactured. Tony Kipp, is there another debate? Not right now. Not right now. No, there is not another debate right now. Will that change? I mean, I would say for that to change, it would almost assuredly have to be entirely on Trump's terms. It would be Kamala wanting it so bad that she would do a debate like in an arena, which is what Trump wants to do. Molecular Mass. Yeah, so much of this debate was rehashed. No one points about Trump. That's my biggest criticism of Kamala is that, like, at least, because again, you know that she's good at set points, things she knows she wants to say, points she knows she wants to deliver. She's not great at improv. Then why are all of your set points cover material from Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden? There was stuff that was verbatim. The John McCain stuff, the John McCain line, and the, what's it called? Gosh darn it. The Obamacare, the great John McCain line, were almost verbatim Joe Biden's lines that they fed her, and she delivered. Like, why do that? If you're a new way forward, then talk like somebody that doesn't sound like a Democrat that you've heard before. She sounded like every Democrat that we've heard over the last 10 years when it comes to Trump. She did have a Clinton staffer doing debate prep. That's fair. Who apparently was wearing the David Byrne Stop Making Sense outfit. Like he had a broad shoulders and a long tie. This ain't no disco. This ain't no fooling around. Fox is saying Trump blew it. Well, I mean, somebody on Fox is certainly saying Trump blew it. The Sonnerbonner are saying it's rehashed because we're hyper-focused on politics. They're not speaking to us. Well, are they though? If her point is we want to turn the page, then it by the premise of that, you are saying that we know what has happened. You know what is on the prior page. So I think, I don't know. I think that any and everybody knows if you are going to be disgusted by Trump, then you can't say, well, look at all these bad things that have happened. You can't introduce him, I guess. I don't know. Trump came across as angry the entire debate. Yeah, no, I would agree. We're the football nerds that know the entire playbook. 100%. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's my point is that, you know, either who are you speaking to? Because if you're speaking to somebody that's saying we need to turn the page on this, then they know what they don't like. What color is my jacket? It's kind of a cream with red, gray, and black plaid stripes. I mean, I certainly think Trump was funnier, for whatever that matters. I mean, he's a funnier person than Kamala. Not that that's a contest, and it certainly shouldn't be the deciding factor on how we elect the most powerful person in the world. But I don't think this changed vote, but both sides really bolstered their side. Oddly strange. I agree with you, but if that's the case, it's advantage Trump. Kamala has to define herself. If people come out of this debate thinking she's radical, it's like fucking bad. She spent an entire convention talking about how she's in the center. And the opportunity cost on that is not just that she's pivoting to the center, it's that she's not emboldening the progressives. She is not saying to liberals, I'm going to be your champion. She's saying, you guys need to pinch your nose and hope I actually do these things differently when I get in. I need to appeal to the dumbs right now. But if the dumbs aren't buying it, the centrists aren't buying it, then that's a huge problem for her. Because everybody knows the Trump deal at this point. Jahander, isn't Kamala's strategy not to define herself and be a mirror? I mean, you can only pull that for so long. Honestly, you can only pull that for so long. You have to eventually be somebody. Trump lost women in this debate with all the times he cut her off by trying to clap back, but she wasn't clapping. I mean, she was talking. You could hear her on mic talking. And you know, I don't know. I mean, maybe there is a gender divide in this election, but I don't think, you know, that was. It wasn't the moment she wanted. I'll put it that way. What she wanted was the Mike Pence moment, the I'm speaking moment. He got that moment and then said, "Remember that moment?" Oh yeah. Let's see the final bingo card. Okay, here we go. We got a bingo on inflation, migrant crime, Ukraine, guns, and Hamas. We got very close. Cats, migrant crime, free, fracking, and Abbey Gate. What an upset that Trump didn't mention Abbey Gate, where the 13 service people were killed. Black jobs. Kamala left that one on the table. 9/11 and no taxes on tips. Interesting. But we did inflation, migrant crime, Ukraine, guns, and Hamas. There we go. Taylor Swift endorsement just dropped. He mentioned that African Americans were losing jobs, but he did not say the words black jobs. Okay, Kirk is on his way. I actually have to run really quick and grab my AirPods because I do need those.
Hello, hello.
All right. Kirk, hold on here. Wait a minute.
Justin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I think you're fine. I just need to get my AirPods working here.
Are you there, God? It's me.
Okay. All right, hold on, Kirk. Let me leave and come back real quick. Oh, here we go. Wait, no, now I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Kirk? Check, check, check. Oh. We are efforting the great Kirk Beto here. Okay. I can hear you. Are we talking to each other? Hell fucking yeah. There we go. All right. Do you mind if this is live streamed? Because I was live streaming before and is that okay? Can you hear me? Okay. You want to know what? You're a little chunky for me. So I think I might, you guys can't hear him. You want to know what? Live stream, we're going to shut it down for now because I have to get this done as fast as possible. So thank you, live stream, for being here. We will be back.